Hi, I hope you're doing well. I'm making this video because people need to know about what's going on in Ohio and it could possibly save lives. If you know anyone in Ohio or anyone that's near living in East Palestine, they need to run away for their safety, and I'll explain why. First, let's talk about what's happened. There's a train derailment in Ohio in East Palestine. East Palestine is this tiny little block here, right? If you want to know exactly where it is, this is where Pittsburgh is. This is the state of Ohio, and Cleveland's right here. East Palestine is just this little tiny block. Now, what happened was several days ago, a train derailed, and this train was carrying toxic chemicals, 20 cars of hazardous materials. So let's cover some of these toxic chemicals that was carried by the train. Now, please, I'm going to try to link all this stuff that I've been reading myself that you can do the research yourself. The first one is hydrogen chloride. For example, hydrogen chloride is just an irritant to your eyes, skin, and respiratory tract. Too much of it can cause corrosive damage to your eyes. So we're talking about stuff like you're going to have trouble seeing later on in the future if you're exposed to it. It can also cause pulmonary edema, which is just liquid in your lungs, which is dangerous as well. The next one was Phosgene. I did some research on this as well. Effectively, it's a major industrial chemical used to make plastics and pesticides. It's going to be very dangerous. I also realized something at room temperature, so 70 Fahrenheit, it's a poisonous gas. And I did check the temperature of East Palestine. It's 42 Fahrenheit. Also, that's 6 degrees Celsius if you're not American. Essentially, if this problem blows over to spring and possibly the summer, we could see a scenario where it does actually become a poisonous gas. Now, the other thing is that if you're exposed to it too much, it causes coughing, burning sensation in throat and eyes, watery eyes, blurred vision, all this other stuff. The other thing is it's a heavier gas than air, which means that if it's going to be a poisonous gas, if the temperature does get around room temperature, which is 70 Fahrenheit, you could see it spread out via gas and actually go into low-lying areas. This stuff's going to be dangerous for you, and it's even said here that it's been responsible for many deaths during World War I. So the third chemical that we're going to talk about, and I'm sure there's more, is essentially vinyl chloride. They found 5 cars of this with vinyl chloride. It's a toxic chemical to humans. The thing is that breathing it in causes dizziness, sleepiness, and even unconsciousness. The other things to note is that it can cause an increased risk of a rare form of liver cancer, as well as primary liver cancer, brain, lung cancers, lymphemia, and leukemia. What is also known about this is that you can get exposed to it by breathing in the gases, and it can go into the water and you can drink it that way. It's also used to make plastic and PVC piping. The thing is this stuff's dangerous to humans. Now, if you follow this situation remotely, there's talks of essentially how there's wildlife and chickens and stuff like that just dying, which means that this stuff is seeping into the ground and it's in the air, right? This was taken above East Palestine. You can see this giant plume of smoke. The residents of this place are going to be exposed to it, which means that we're talking about essentially increase in birth defects, increase in cancer. You're going to see maybe like 10 years, 15 years down the road, if they do a study, that this area is going to have an increased level of cancer among the residents. We're talking about leukemia, lymphoma, increased leukemia for kids. Now, I'm no doctor and I'm no chemist, but just looking at the writing on the wall, this stuff's going to be really dangerous, and which is why if you live in this area or even near this area, you need to run. This stuff's going to seep into the ground. It's going to go into the waterways. People are going to get exposed and they're going to die. So I'm going to play this video for you. This is from Reddit that came out 23 hours ago or nearly a day ago. I'm going to link this so you can actually see it for yourself, and I'm also going to link this one where it talks about the toxic vinyl chloride vapor from the train derailment in Ohio. Now let's just play this.
The train derailed Friday, 20 of them carrying hazardous materials as flames lit up the sky in northeastern Ohio.
The evacuation order is in place for anyone within a mile radius.
Now, just let that sink in. We're talking about toxic gases and stuff that can seep into the ground. I've said this a million times and I'll say it again. It can go into the waterways. This stuff's going to stick around. It's not just going to magically disappear just because you're burning it. The evacuation radius should be the whole town and the neighboring towns as well, because this stuff's going to get everywhere.
Of the crash site.
These aren't storm clouds. This is the burn off in East Palestine. This is not storm clouds. Look at it.
And you can see here, I'm sorry to pause the video again, but as you can see, these toxic fumes are going to spread. The wind's going to blow it in every direction, in whichever direction the wind blows. So for example, the next town over might be affected by this as well. Wildlife is going to get affected by this as well.
Look at it!
This is horrible. I got arrested because I was trying to do a live report about what people.
Also, this is sad to see. This is a scenario where we need to get this information out to everybody, not just in Ohio. I'm talking everybody in America, North America, because this can happen in your own backyard. This could happen to a major city where these toxic chemicals, in the name of profits, they don't handle them correctly and people's lives get ruined through cancer, through birth defects.
Officials are claiming that the air and water are safe. Residents say they can still smell chlorine. They've complained about their eyes watering when they go outside, and one woman says the noxious air killed her chickens.
Out of nowhere, he just started coughing really hard and just shut down and went very fast.
Look at all these rows. I'm not kidding. This is within 10 miles of East Palestine.
If you have not evacuated, please leave the area.
So like I said in the video there, it shows around 10 miles. You need to run if you live in East Palestine. If you're in the neighboring towns, possibly cities, you need to be worried as well. These carcinogenics are going to get exposed to you, your kids, your pets, wildlife even. It's going to toxify the ground as well as the air depending on which way the wind blows. But we need to let everyone know. So like I said at the beginning of the video, if you know a family member, if you know a friend, if there's someone like you play video games with that lives in Ohio or knows someone in Ohio, you need to tell them about this. They need to be careful because the government that's supposed to step in and help the civilians, the residents of East Palestine and Ohio, are not doing their job. And as you saw, that they even arrested a reporter because they want to keep a lid on things. So the train that derailed in Ohio belongs to Norfolk Southern. Here's the thing to note: over the last decade and possibly longer than a decade, train companies have been essentially cutting every corner known to man in the sake and the name of profits, which is dangerous, because here we are finally presented with a scenario where it's not just, you know, weight or plastic or goods just falling off a train or derailing. We're talking about toxic chemicals that are carcinogenic, that will cause cancer in the lives of the residents of Ohio, that's being released in the air. It's seeping into the ground, no doubt, as well it's going to be going into the waterways. We can see here that it's going to be killing off wildlife. There's just random fish that are dead. I'll link to this as well because people need to know about this. There needs to be change in this scenario. The next derailment is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And the next derailment is a matter of if it's going to be more dangerous than this and if it's going to release even more toxic chemicals like nuclear material or anything like lead, for example. And we all know how deadly lead is to the human body. Ultimately, we need change. We need better legislation. We need better regulation for the train systems in America, and not just in America, in Canada too, because we suffer from derailments as well. The thing is that it's not a matter of if, it's just when the next one's going to happen. And we pray to God that, you know, the next one's not going to be more of a disaster than this one currently is. With that being said, this needs to get out as many people as possible in Ohio and the surrounding areas. Depending on the direction of the wind that's blowing, I think it's blowing east, I could be wrong. The people in that direction are going to be at risk as well. And not just the people, the pets, the wildlife, it's going to seep into the ground. But I just hope that the situation does get better and that the federal government does step in to help the civilians of Ohio and the surrounding areas.